Consider this. The typical American family is said to require 4 to 6 acres for their food supply, yet Amish families manage to feed 10 individuals using merely 1 to 2 acres. Their advantage doesn't stem from cutting-edge technology or costly machinery. It originates from something far more precious. These historically proven practices possess the potential to permanently alter your perspective on growing food. And the most astonishing aspect is their inherent simplicity. Have you ever puzzled over how the Amish succeed in feeding large families from plots of land that appear quite modest? The figures involved are genuinely surprising. An average Amish farm yields sufficient food for 10 or more people, utilizing just 1 to 2 acres of intensively farmed cultivation space. Conversely, contemporary American agriculture demands approximately 4 to 6 times that amount of land per individual, often while providing food that is less nutritious. What is their underlying secret? It isn't related to sophisticated technology or expensive equipment. In reality, the situation is precisely the reverse. The Amish methodology for farming is founded on 3 core tenets that have supported their communities across generations. Waste nothing, engage in daily work, and place trust in tradition. These aren't merely pleasant concepts. They function as practical directives that yield remarkable productivity. When an Amish farmer considers kitchen scraps, he doesn't perceive refuse. He sees the compost for tomorrow. When he faces a failed crop, he doesn't perceive disaster. He sees a valuable lesson for the subsequent season. This waste-nothing philosophy permeates every facet of managing the farm. The commitment to daily labor holds equal significance. Instead of attempting to accomplish all gardening duties during weekends, as many modern hobby gardeners do, Amish farmers weave small, consistent tasks into the fabric of each day. A brief period of weeding here, a touch of harvesting there. These regular interventions stop minor problems from escalating into unmanageable ones. Contemporary gardeners label this maintenance. Amish farmers simply refer to it as Tuesday. Regarding the trust placed in tradition, the Amish have refined their agricultural methods over centuries. Whereas modern farmers might pursue the latest fads, Amish cultivators depend on techniques passed down through successive generations. This doesn't imply they resist innovation entirely. They merely evaluate changes meticulously before implementing them. The emphasis on high-yield, nutrient-packed crops, rather than purely decorative types, ensures that every square foot contributes significantly. You won't encounter ornamental kale or unusual colored cauliflower varieties that compromise productivity for visual appeal. Instead, you will find dependable, time-tested varieties chosen for their consistent output and nutritional worth. This accumulated wisdom isn't confined to books. Multi-generational knowledge transfer guarantees that farming proficiency is preserved and enhanced with each passing year. Grandparents impart knowledge to parents who then teach their children, establishing an uninterrupted sequence of practical instruction that no agricultural college can replicate. This knowledge is transmitted through practical application. Many Amish farmers develop an understanding of soil requirements by noticing which weeds naturally flourish, as different weeds signify particular soil states or nutrient shortcomings. Perhaps the most intriguing element is the model of community work sharing. When a substantial undertaking arises, such as constructing a barn or bringing in the harvest, the entire community mobilizes. This shared labor system ensures that no individual family carries the complete weight of major agricultural endeavors. Their stance on technology is deliberately selective. While modern implements can malfunction in numerous ways, their traditional practices have demonstrated reliability through generations of application under all types of conditions. This community-focused mindset extends to equipment too. Costly tools or implements might be shared among several families, thereby lowering individual expenditures while guaranteeing that everyone has access to essential resources. It represents practical resource management in its purest form. What contemporary gardeners might identify as regenerative or sustainable agriculture has simply been the established Amish practice all along. Their methods were not formulated to tackle climate change or the depletion of topsoil. They originated out of necessity and a profound respect for the land that provides their sustenance. As we delve deeper into these techniques, we will uncover the underlying foundations that render Amish farming so exceptionally productive. Their strategy of collaborating with nature instead of opposing it reveals a wisdom that modern agriculture frequently overlooks. The outcomes validate their approach: plentiful harvests that sustain families throughout all seasons with remarkably little squandered effort. Inquire with any seasoned Amish farmer about his success, and he will likely share one fundamental truth: the dirt doesn't lie. This straightforward declaration holds immense wisdom. While modern agriculture often regards soil merely as a medium to support plants vertically while supplying them with synthetic nutrients, Amish farmers perceive soil as a living ecosystem demanding careful attention and respect. The sole product we will ever endorse on our channel is a book authored by Claude Davis, a veteran prepper, concerning 126 superfoods and preservation methods originating from times of crisis like the Great Depression and wartime, which are impossible to locate elsewhere. Our decision to promote his book stems from the belief that we represent the final generation capable of imparting these techniques and knowledge of superfoods to our children or grandchildren. It would be regrettable to witness the disappearance of this information regarding highly nutritious foods and preservation methods crucial for surviving crises. Additionally, you can locate a book about herbal remedies by Nicole in their store. If you happen to be watching this program on television, you can search for our channel Frugal Solutions using your phone or tablet and discover the books by selecting the link provided in our channel description or any other video description. Rich, healthy soil constitutes the bedrock of Amish farming achievement. Their methods integrate common waste products with natural processes to cultivate soil that practically encourages plants to grow independently. Coffee grounds transform into valuable assets in Amish gardens. These grounds, abundant in nitrogen, are incorporated into compost heaps instead of being discarded. The outcome: a dark, friable soil amendment that invigorates plants and enhances soil structure. The custom of burying fish remnants 12 inches deep close to plant roots might appear unusual until one comprehends the underlying science. As the fish remains decompose, they gradually release nutrients, establishing a time-release fertilizer that nourishes plants for months. Plants situated near buried fish frequently grow to twice the size of their unfertilized counterparts. Crushed eggshells fulfill a dual role within the garden. When scattered around tomato plants, they avert blossom and rot by supplying the calcium that tomatoes require. Furthermore, their sharp edges act as a deterrent to soft-bodied pests such as slugs and snails. The practice of creating manure tea converts animal waste into liquid nourishment for plants. By steeping aged manure in water over several days, Amish gardeners concoct a nutrient-rich liquid that can be diluted and applied directly to growing plants. This liquid fertilizer supplies nutrients in a format that plants can readily utilize. Annual soil testing is not solely reserved for large commercial agricultural operations. Amish growers regularly analyze their soil to ascertain precisely which nutrients might be deficient. Rather than relying on guesswork or applying generic fertilizers, they address specific shortcomings with accurate amendments. Modern gardeners frequently adhere to convenient planting timetables. However, Amish farmers arrange crop rotation according to the nutritional demands of the soil. Crops that heavily deplete nutrients, like corn, might be succeeded by nitrogen-fixing beans, which restore what the corn utilized. During off-seasons, Amish fields seldom remain uncovered. Planting cover crops, such as clover and alfalfa, inhibits erosion while simultaneously fixing atmospheric nitrogen into the soil. A standard cover crop can contribute up to 100 levies of nitrogen per acre, comparable to several bags of commercial fertilizer. The profound respect for soil extends to shielding it from severe weather conditions. Layers of mulch consisting of straw, leaves, or wood chips protect the soil from forceful rain and intense sun. Beneath a 4-inch mulch layer, one might discover over 25 earthworms per square foot, nature's ideal tillers and fertilizer producers. While most of us find it challenging to attract worms to our gardens, Amish farmers practically require traffic signals for their teeming subterranean networks. Compost generation elevates to an art form within Amish communities. By meticulously balancing green materials, nitrogen-rich, with brown materials, carbon-rich, they foster decomposition environments that convert refuse into soil-enhancing humus. A properly managed compost pile attains temperatures of 140 to 160 degrees, effectively destroying weed seeds while safeguarding beneficial microbes. The results are self-evident. While conventional farms contend with diminishing topsoil and escalating input expenses, Amish fields frequently become increasingly fertile with each passing year. This meticulous care for the foundation beneath our feet discloses much about the Amish perspective on agriculture. By nurturing the soil, they establish conditions where plants naturally flourish with minimal external help. And once this foundation is firmly in place, the emphasis shifts towards arranging crops in configurations that maximize the utility of every square inch of valuable growing area. Conventional row gardening squanders space. Stroll through an Amish vegetable garden and you'll observe something notably different. Plants thriving in patterns that resemble a dynamic puzzle more than the straight lines prevalent in most backyard gardens. Rows were perfectly logical when equipment drawn by horses or powered by tractors required The secret originates beneath the soil's surface. Amish farmers plant seeds with the point facing downwards rather than scattering them randomly. This elementary technique aids in establishing more robust root systems more rapidly. When a seed germinates, the root emerges initially. By orienting seeds with their pointed ends downward, roots immediately develop in the correct direction without expending energy on reorientation. Above the ground, their renowned Three Sisters technique exemplifies the ingenuity of companion planting. Corn, beans, and squash are cultivated together on the same mound, each plant supporting the others in a mutually advantageous association. Corn furnishes a natural framework for beans to ascend. Beans fix nitrogen from the atmosphere, thereby fertilizing the soil. Squash spreads across the ground, forming a living mulch that suppresses weeds and conserves moisture. This ancient configuration yields 20% more food per square foot compared to cultivating these crops individually. Vertical space is not neglected either. A thoughtfully designed trellis can quadruple the quantity of climbing plants within the identical ground area. Peas, beans, cucumbers, and small melons extend upwards, transforming a 4x4 FT plot into a productive vertical structure that captures sunshine from various angles. Clever timing enhances these spatial efficiencies. Intercropping faster maturing radishes between slower developing carrots permits harvesting the radishes precisely when the carrots require additional space. The early removal of radishes naturally thins and aerates the soil for the growing carrots, effectively yielding 2 crops from a single area. Plant heights are also given careful thought. Taller plants such as corn or sunflowers typically inhabit the northern side of garden beds, succeeded by medium-height plants like tomatoes or peppers. Then shorter crops such as lettuce or radishes are positioned along the southern edge. This tiered arrangement guarantees that every plant obtains sufficient sunlight without casting shadows on its neighbors. Companion planting extends beyond the well-known Three Sisters method. Amish gardeners possess an understanding of plant families and their interrelations. Aromatic herbs like basil planted amidst tomatoes enhance flavor and repel pests. Flowering companions such as marigolds attract beneficial insects while discouraging harmful ones. These associations establish miniature ecosystems where plants mutually assist each other's growth, diminishing pest damage by as much as 60% relative to monoculture plantings. Perhaps the most astonishing aspect is the Amish inclination towards hexagonal planting arrangements over conventional straight rows. Positioning plants in a honeycomb pattern enables more plants to occupy the same area because it eradicates the unused corners inherent in square or rectangular spacing, A 10x10 FT plot can hold approximately 15% more plants when arranged hexagonally compared to grid rows. Close spacing generates its own microclimate as well, when plant leaves grow sufficiently to touch their neighbors, forming what gardeners term living mulch. They shade the soil, thereby decreasing water evaporation and hindering weed proliferation. One elderly Amish gardener observed that modern farms plant in rows simply because driving a tractor in a straight line is easier than driving in circles, but once the tractor is unnecessary, nature doesn't favor straight lines, and neither should your garden. As these planting configurations yield plentiful harvests, the question arises, how does one maintain this level of productivity throughout the various seasons? The solution resides in meticulous timing and planning that ensures a continuous supply of fresh food from the garden nearly all year long. Cultivating food is not a singular event for Amish farmers. Their gardens yield produce almost continuously throughout the year due to a carefully synchronized sequence of planting and harvesting that maintains the soil's ongoing productivity. Most backyard gardeners plant everything in the spring, harvest during the summer, and cease activities by autumn. The Amish strategy could hardly be more distinct. Their calendar system guarantees harvests from April through November, even in northern regions with shorter growing seasons. The enchantment commences with lettuce. Instead of planting one extensive bed and contending with periods of either surplus or scarcity, Amish gardeners sow fresh lettuce seeds every 14 days during the entire growing season. This straightforward rhythm ensures a reliable provision of fresh greens without overwhelming harvests that result in waste. By the time one planting begins to bolt or develop a bitter taste, the subsequent one is prepared for harvesting. Cool weather crops do not passively await warm soil either. While still harvesting stored winter vegetables like potatoes and carrots, Amish farmers initiate peas, spinach, and other cool season crops beneath basic row covers. These protective coverings retain heat and establish a microclimate that can be 7 to 10 degrees warmer than the ambient air, effectively granting these plants a head start of several weeks. The moon assumes a surprising function in this timing as well. Traditional Amish planting knowledge adheres to lunar phases, not from superstition, but grounded in centuries of observation. Above-ground crops such as lettuce and kale are planted during the waxing moon when the gravitational influence is believed to draw moisture upwards. Root crops are sown during the waning moon when that identical force directs energy downwards. Although modern science contests these effects, Amish gardeners assert that their moon-timed plantings germinate more rapidly and exhibit stronger growth. Speed becomes an advantage through the deliberate choice of rapidly maturing varieties. While a solitary tomato plant might occupy its designated space for over 100 days, the identical area could yield 3 successive crops of 30-day radishes. Amish gardens typically encompass both long-season crops and swift producers, forging a perpetual harvest cycle that maximizes food output. This approach necessitates flawless timing, such as starting autumn crops like Brussels sprouts indoors while summer crops are still yielding. Amish gardeners eradicate intervals between harvests. The summer crop barely concludes before the autumn seedling assumes its position. During peak season, an Amish garden might contain plants representing 3 distinct planting dates growing concurrently, those currently being harvested, those in mid-growth, and newly planted successors. Corn planting exemplifies this staggered methodology particularly effectively. Instead of planting all the corn simultaneously, Amish gardeners sow small segments every 2 weeks. This strategy prolongs the sweet corn season from a frantic week of overwhelming abundance to a manageable 2-month harvest period. The initial planting might be ready in early July, with subsequent plantings furnishing fresh ears well into September. Cold frames, elementary structures featuring transparent tops, evolve into indispensable tools for prolonging seasons at both extremities. These miniature greenhouses can effectively append 4 weeks to the commencement of spring and an additional 4 weeks to the conclusion of autumn. an Amish garden might still be yielding fresh greens in December, considerably after conventional gardens have been prepared for winter dormancy. The exertion yields extraordinary returns. A skillfully managed succession garden can generate 30 to 40% more food than a single planting strategy within the identical area. Certain intensively managed Amish gardens harvest over 6 lbs of produce per square foot annually, approximately 3 times the yield of typical backyard gardens. This system does not materialize randomly. Underlying every prosperous succession garden is a comprehensive journal. Amish farmers painstakingly document planting dates, harvest durations, weather conditions, and yields. These records, occasionally spanning decades, transform into invaluable references for refining timing year after year. The optimal planting calendar is not discovered in a book or online. It is cultivated through direct experience within your particular growing environment. While all this meticulous planning might appear intricate, there exists a pleasing simplicity in the methodology. As one section concludes its production, it is promptly revitalized and replanted. The garden evolves into a continuous food production facility rather than a seasonal pastime. And just as crops necessitate precise timing, they also require water, although perhaps not in the manner you might anticipate. The Amish strategy for irrigation unveils yet another facet of resourcefulness that contemporary gardeners would be prudent to emulate. Water animates gardens, yet achieving the right balance entails more than merely activating a hose. Amish farmers have cultivated water management practices that concurrently conserve this invaluable resource while optimizing plant vitality. Rain barrels materialize at nearly every downspout on Amish properties. These elementary collectors convert potential runoff into stored irrigation water. A standard 55-gallon barrel completely fills during a mere quarter-inch rainfall on a typical sized roof. With 4 strategically positioned barrels around a dwelling, a single moderate rain event can gather 220 gallons of chemical-free water suitable for garden application. Timing watering accurately furnishes plants with necessary moisture while consuming less. During the summer months, nighttime watering becomes the established norm. The scientific reasoning is sound. Daytime watering results in up to 30% moisture loss through evaporation before it even penetrates the root zone. By shifting irrigation to the evening hours, a greater volume of water reaches the roots, and plants possess overnight periods to absorb moisture without the competition from evaporation. The principle of deep watering takes precedence over frequent light sprinklings. Amish gardens generally receive fewer waterings. Anyone visiting during the summer might observe Amish gardens enveloped in what resemble protective coverings. Their deep mulching technique converts straw, leaves, grass clippings, or even shredded newspaper into moisture-retaining layers that drastically diminish watering requirements. A 3-inch layer of organic mulch can curtail water needs by 50% compared to bare soil. For flowering plants necessitating an additional stimulus, Amish gardeners resort to an unexpected ally, Epsom salt. Incorporating 1 tablespoon per gallon of water once monthly furnishes magnesium and sulfur, aiding plants in generating vibrant blossoms and robust stems. It proves particularly beneficial for tomatoes, peppers, and roses. Gardeners jest that it resembles sending plants to a restorative spa. They invariably appear revitalized afterward. The landscape itself transforms into a water management apparatus through meticulously planned swales and berms. These subtle landforms, shallow ditches combined with small elevated sections, naturally guide rainfall towards areas where it is most required. A correctly designed swale possesses the capacity to retain 1,000 gallons of water during a substantial rain event, gradually releasing it into the soil rather than permitting runoff. Gravity serves as the power source for numerous Amish irrigation systems. By positioning rainwater barrels on simple platforms, water pressure accumulates naturally without the need for pumps or electricity. A barrel elevated merely 3 feet generates sufficient pressure to operate basic drip irrigation lines throughout a garden. This system distributes water accurately to plant root zones with negligible waste and zero energy expenditure. In regions characterized by less dependable rainfall, the selection of drought-resistant crops becomes paramount. Older varieties frequently surpass modern hybrids under stressful circumstances, while newer tomato varieties might yield larger fruit under optimal conditions. Many traditional types can produce respectable harvests utilizing half the amount of water. The morning inspection routine reveals considerable insight into Amish water discipline. Gardens undergo thorough scrutiny during the early morning hours, when plants that endure the night without willing are likely to flourish throughout the day. This elementary observation period effectively prevents overwatering, just as it prevents underwatering. This considerate approach to water management not only conserves resources, but actually fosters healthier plants. Overwatered gardens frequently encounter more disease complications than those receiving measured irrigation. By providing plants with precisely what they require, rather than what might appear abundant, Amish gardeners cultivate resilient food systems capable of thriving even amidst challenging weather conditions. Much like their strategy for addressing the challenge of unwelcome visitors in their garden beds, insects, rabbits, and deer possess the potential to devastate a garden overnight. Nevertheless, Amish farms flourish without the application of chemical pesticides. Their methodology: collaborate with nature's pre-existing systems instead of combating them. Diversity acts as the initial line of defense. Amish gardens teem with variety, the antithesis of commercial farms cultivating acres of identical crops. This straightforward tactic confounds pests that might otherwise concentrate on extensive plantings of a single crop. Research indicates that diverse gardens experience 50% fewer pest issues compared to monocultures. When cabbage worms are unable to locate 10 rows of cabbage planted contiguously, they face difficulty establishing devastating populations. Marigolds contribute more than just vibrant hues to garden perimeters. These unassuming flowers release compounds via their roots that repel nematodes, microscopic worms capable of damaging plant roots. They also act as a deterrent to aphids, which otherwise reproduce at astonishing rates. A solitary aphid can generate 600 descendants in merely 3 weeks. Marigolds planted every few feet establish invisible barriers that many insects are reluctant to traverse. Human hair, salvaged from family haircuts, transforms into a remarkably effective deterrent when dispersed around plant bases. The aroma persuades deer and rabbits that humans are actively present within the vicinity. A small quantity of hair can safeguard plants for several weeks, gradually decomposing to enrich the soil with nitrogen. What commences as pest protection concludes as fertilizer, a perfect illustration of the waste-nothing philosophy. Border plantings operate as decoy crops, luring pests away from principal vegetables. Nasturtiums planted along garden edges attract aphids away from more valuable crops. When pests gather on these sacrificial plants, they become easier to manage without jeopardizing the primary harvest. This technique can diminish damage to main crops by as much as 70%. Timing assumes a critical role as well. Amish farmers plant in accordance with natural pest cycles derived from generations of observations. Postponing certain crops by merely 2 weeks can result in them entirely avoiding the emergence of specific pests. Squash planted in early July, for example, frequently eludes the initial generation of squash-vined borers that appear in June. Homemade sprays effectively supplant commercial pesticides. A basic concoction of crushed garlic, hot peppers, and water steeped overnight yields a spray that most insects find offensive. When applied weekly to plant foliage, this natural deterrent diminishes feeding damage by irritating the sensory organs of insects. Unlike chemical solutions, these natural sprays decompose rapidly without leaving behind detrimental residues. Beneficial insects warrant special attention. Amish gardeners deliberately plant dill, fennel, and other flowers possessing minute blossoms that attract predatory wasps and flies. These advantageous insects hunt caterpillars and other pests with notable efficiency. A single lacewing larva is capable of consuming over 200 aphids within a week. nature's own pest control service operating free of charge. Early morning pest removal might appear laborious, yet it proves remarkably effective. Most insects remain lethargic in cool morning temperatures, rendering them easier to collect by hand. This daily routine prevents minor issues from escalating into infestations. 10 minutes of morning surveillance can avert hours of subsequent damage mitigation. Some gardeners maintain a container of soapy water nearby to deposit collected pests into, ensuring they cannot return to the plants. Duck and chicken tractors, transportable enclosures lacking floors, convert poultry into pest management units. Wheeled across garden sections between plantings, these structures permit birds to forage for insects and weed seeds while simultaneously depositing fertilizer. A small flock can eliminate a surprising quantity of pests. A chicken has the capacity to consume up to 200 ticks daily. After birds have cleared an area, it is immediately prepared for new planting with diminished pest concerns. These natural strategies necessitate greater observation and planning compared to merely spraying chemicals at the initial indication of damage, yet they foster healthier ecosystems that progressively become more self-regulating over time. By collaborating with nature's inherent checks and balances instead of disrupting them, Amish gardeners discover that pest problems lessen year after year as beneficial populations become established. This balanced methodology extends beyond insects to encompass the numerous animals that interact with Amish farms. Rather than perceiving animals merely as issues requiring elimination, Amish farmers have devised systems that integrate them into productive functions within the farm ecosystem. Animals convert waste into sustenance on Amish farms. In contrast to conventional agriculture, where livestock frequently vie with humans for grain, Amish farmers establish integrated systems wherein animals fulfill their natural ecological roles. The protein cycle constitutes the core of this approach. Kitchen remnants nourish chickens. Chickens yield eggs and manure. Manure fertilizes the soil. Soil cultivates vegetables. And vegetable cuttings revert to the chickens. Nothing is squandered. Each animal contributes a specific function in this ongoing cycle that ultimately generates more food with fewer external inputs. Fresh eggs function as both a daily protein source and a form of currency within Amish communities. Determining egg freshness necessitates no sophisticated apparatus, merely a bowl of water. Fresh eggs submerge and lie horizontally. As eggs mature, the internal air pocket expands, causing them to stand vertically in water. Extremely old eggs float entirely. This elementary test averts waste and guarantees food safety without reliance on modern refrigeration. Chicken tractors, floorless mobile enclosures, deploy poultry throughout garden areas. These uncomplicated structures, shifted daily, enable birds to forage for insects and weeds while depositing nitrogen-rich manure exactly where required. After chickens have occupied an area for several days, it is perfectly fertilized and cleared of pests, ready for immediate planting. The birds manage approximately 50 square feet per day per dozen chickens. Nature's ideal garden preparation system. Rabbit manure possibly represents the most undervalued garden asset. These small herbivores convert hay, weeds, and vegetable scraps into what gardeners term cold manure. Fertilizer so mild it can be applied directly to growing plants without causing scorching. A single rabbit generates approximately 1 cubic foot of manure monthly, sufficient to fertilize roughly 50 square feet of garden space. Draft horses furnish precise cultivation without the soil compaction induced by heavy machinery. A horse's weight distributes more uniformly through 4 hooves, preventing the formation of dense soil layers that impede root growth. These working animals consume grass and hay, crops indigestible by humans, and transform them into power and manure. Grazing animals rotate through orchard sections according to carefully timed patterns. Sheep, introduced following the fruit harvest, consume fallen fruit that might otherwise harbor pests, while simultaneously fertilizing the trees. Their relatively lightweight beehives consume minimal space while significantly enhancing crop yields. Strategic positioning near vegetable gardens and fruit trees boosts pollination and subsequent harvests. A single robust hive can pollinate as many as 300 million flowers daily during peak season, potentially elevating fruit and vegetable yields by 30% or more. Wildlife becomes integrated rather than excluded. Bat houses mounted on outbuildings attract natural mosquito control agents. A solitary bat can devour up to 1,000 mosquito-sized insects hourly during nocturnal feeding. Brush accumulations at property boundaries establish habitats for snakes that regulate rodent populations. Perch poles invite hawks and owls that also manage field mice populations. Heritage breeds adapted to local environments flourish with minimal intervention. These traditional varieties might not yield as rapidly as modern hybrids, but they frequently necessitate considerably fewer inputs. The jest among Amish farmers: modern chickens function as egg-laying machines, occasionally requiring replacement chicken parts. Heritage breeds represent actual chickens that coincidentally lay eggs. This strategy acknowledges that animals possess natural behaviors capable of either benefiting or hindering garden productivity. Instead of opposing these instincts, Amish farmers constructively channel them. The resultant systems grow increasingly stable over time, fostering gardens where certain elements yield year after year with minimal exertion, proving that occasionally the optimal strategy involves planting once and harvesting for decades. Why replant vegetation that can persist in growing year after year? Amish gardeners have perfected the technique of minimal exertion, yielding maximum returns through the strategic deployment of perennial plants, those that reappear season after season without requiring replanting. Self-seeding herbs disperse themselves throughout Amish gardens. Dill, cilantro, and chamomile release thousands of minuscule seeds each autumn, generating new growth the subsequent spring without any human involvement. A single well-established dill plant can generate up to 10,000 seeds. Instead of combating these volunteer plants, Amish gardeners simply transplant any that emerge in undesirable locations. This method furnishes a continuous supply of fresh herbs with zero planting effort following initial establishment. Fruit and nut trees establish natural windbreaks along northern garden boundaries. This considered placement fulfills multiple functions. The trees obstruct cold winter winds, generating a microclimate up to 5 degrees warmer for adjacent plants. Concurrently, their stature ensures they do not overshadow the garden when sunlight is most crucial. A mature apple tree is capable of yielding 500 labies of fruit annually for 50 years or more, translating to thousands of pounds of food from a single planting initiative. Asparagus beds arguably represent the paramount example of perennial productivity. Once established, these spring delicacies reliably return for decades. Certain Amish asparagus plots have yielded continuously for over 25 years. During the peak season, a healthy bed produces approximately half a pound per day from each 10-foot row. This early season crop furnishes fresh vegetables when little else is prepared for harvest, bridging the interval between winter reserves and summer profusion. Jerusalem artichokes, relatives of sunflowers, provide dependable food security with virtually zero upkeep. Their starchy tubers remain securely underground throughout winter, ready for excavation whenever required. They exhibit an almost excessive eagerness to grow, prompting the gardening quip, "Plant one Jerusalem artichoke and you'll never need to plant another, even if you wish to." Their tenacity renders them ideal for locations where other crops encounter difficulties. Edible hedges obscure the distinction between ornamental and practical applications. Berry-producing shrubs such as elderberry, currant, and blueberry fashion living fences that concurrently delineate garden spaces while yielding food. A mature elderberry can produce 15 labies of berries annually, furnishing both sustenance and medicinal properties. These multifunctional plantings render even boundary areas productive. Rhubarb patches deliver among the earliest spring harvests. When snow has barely receded, these sturdy plants propel their red stalks skyward. A single well-established plant can generate 5 to 10 pounds of stalks annually for up to 20 years, demanding almost no attention beyond occasional division when overcrowded. Early season pies and preserves become available weeks before most garden crops even commence growth. Grape arbors convert walkways into food-generating zones. By training vines over garden paths, Amish gardeners establish shaded passages while harvesting 15 to 20 pounds of grapes per mature vine. The vertical growing area does not conflict with garden beds, effectively generating food from otherwise unutilized airspace. The cooling shade beneath them provides ideal locations for heat-sensitive herbs during summer months. Horseradish functions as both a flavor enhancer and a boundary indicator. Its deep taproot renders it nearly indestructible once established, while its pungent roots furnish medicines and condiments. Typically planted at garden corners, it establishes permanent reference points while providing yearly harvests without replanting. A mature plant yields approximately 1 to 2 pounds of roots annually when selectively harvested. Perennial onions, encompassing Egyptian walking onions and potato onions, obviate the necessity of purchasing onion sets each spring. These intriguing plants generate new bulbs both beneath the ground and at the apexes of their stems. The top bulbs eventually grow so heavy they cause the stalk to bend to the ground, effectively walking the plant to new territory and self-propagating. Once established, these perpetual onions furnish both green scallions and storage bulbs indefinitely. What renders this perennial strategy particularly ingenious is how it strategically distributes gardening labor. Amish gardeners concentrate their daily efforts on annual crops demanding regular attention, while perennials largely sustain themselves following establishment. This balanced methodology guarantees maximum returns from restricted labor resources. The implements employed to maintain these diverse plants mirror the same considered approach. Each tool is crafted for specific functions and preserved with exceptional diligence to guarantee generations of dependable service. Tools narrate histories on Amish farms. The smooth patina on a shovel handle attests to innumerable holes excavated. The gleaming edge of a meticulously maintained hoe signifies years of careful sharpening. In contrast to the disposable mindset of modern culture, Amish farmers regard tools as lifelong investments, meriting appropriate upkeep. Wooden handles garner particular focus. Locally sourced hickory, valued for its blend of robustness and shock absorption, serves as the preferred material for replacement handles. A correctly seasoned hickory handle can endure for decades if properly preserved. The wood undergoes regular treatment with a blend of linseed oil and beeswax rubbed into the grain to forestall drying and cracking. This elementary maintenance prolongs handle lifespan by 300% compared to untreated wood. Following each use, metal tools undergo cleaning and appropriate storage to inhibit rust formation. Numerous Amish workshops incorporate sand buckets containing a small quantity of light oil. Garden implements like trowels and pruners are inserted into this mixture for storage, maintaining their metal components lightly oiled and shielded from moisture. This storage technique diminishes rust development by up to 90% relative to tools merely suspended on a wall. Winter transforms into the tool restoration season when garden demands diminish. Attention shifts towards maintenance and readiness for spring. Shovels and hoes undergo resharpening. Loose handles receive attention. Some farmers jest that their tools experience more repose during winter than they themselves do. Horse-drawn implements facilitate precision without reliance on petroleum. The cultivation machinery pulled by draft animals can weed between rows with remarkable exactitude. The pace of horses, slower than tractors yet faster than manual labor, establishes the ideal speed for meticulous observation while covering significant terrain. A proficient team of horses can cultivate approximately 5 acres daily, eliminating weeds without disrupting crop roots. Sharpened hoes function as extensions of the gardener's hands. Unlike dull implements necessitating force and inducing fatigue, razor-sharp tools effortlessly slice through weeds just beneath the soil surface. Amish farmers typically sharpen their hoes twice as frequently as conventional gardeners. culminating in nearly 50% less exertion required during weeding activities. Specialized tools emerge tailored for particular crops. The asparagus knife, featuring its narrow angled blade, permits precise cutting of spears below soil level without harming adjacent shoots. Bean hooks render the harvesting of bush beans less strenuous. Cabbage corers efficiently extract stumps following harvest. These task-specific implements often cannot be procured commercially, but are instead crafted in winter workshops founded upon generations of field experience. Community tool-sharing arrangements curtail individual expenditures. Costly implements utilized only sporadically, such as cider presses or grain cleaners, frequently belong jointly to several families or circulate throughout the community as required. This pragmatic approach guarantees access to specialized equipment without superfluous duplication. A typical shared tool might cater to 5 to 7 families, distributing the acquisition. Draft animals undergo training as meticulously as tools receive maintenance. Working horses react to voice commands with remarkable precision, enabling farmers to manage direction and speed while maintaining both hands free for other duties. A thoroughly trained workhorse can comprehend over 20 distinct voice commands. Harvest baskets woven from locally cultivated materials exemplify the interconnectedness of all farm components. Black ash or oak splints gathered during winter when sap levels are low are soaked, pounded, and divided into pliable strips suitable for weaving. These handcrafted receptacles frequently endure 15 to 20 years of continuous utilization, significantly outlasting factory-produced substitutes. With properly maintained tools poised for operation, the Amish farmer directs his attention towards preserving the plentiful harvests these implements facilitate, ensuring that the abundance of summer translates into food security throughout the lean winter months ahead. Cultivating food addresses only half of the challenge. Preserving its edibility through winter completes the cycle. Amish preservation techniques convert transient abundance into enduring food security without reliance on freezers or contemporary technology. Salt preservation ranks among the most ancient methods. Meat packed in salt extracts moisture, fostering an environment where bacteria cannot proliferate. A correctly salt-cured ham can stay safe and edible for over a year without refrigeration. The procedure necessitates approximately 1 pound of salt for every 10 lbs of meat. While modern individuals might deem salt-preserved meat excessively salty, the Amish perspective is pragmatic. Excess salt can always be soaked out, whereas spoiled meat cannot be salvaged. Honey preservation presents an alternative to sugar for conserving fruits. The inherent antibacterial qualities of honey inhibit spoilage while imparting a unique flavor. Fruits preserved in honey remain viable for up to 3 years, considerably longer than sugar-preserved counterparts, which typically endure for 1 year. The method also demands about 30% less sweetener by volume, rendering it more cost-effective. Root cellaring depends on nature's own refrigeration, the stable, cool temperatures found beneath the ground. A correctly constructed root cellar sustains temperatures between 32 and 40 degrees Celsius, with humidity levels ranging from 85 to 95%. These represent ideal conditions for storing root vegetables, apples, and cabbage. A typical family-sized root cellar can hold sufficient produce to sustain 8 to 10 individuals for 4 to 5 months during winter. Fermentation converts cabbage into sauerkraut and cucumbers into pickles, while simultaneously increasing vitamin content rather than diminishing it. Unlike modern preservation techniques that often diminish nutritional value, fermentation actually generates supplementary B vitamins. A standard batch of sauerkraut contains up to 4 times more vitamin C than the original cabbage. It constitutes the rare preservation method that enhances food rather than merely sustaining it. Solar dehydration utilizes free energy to extract moisture from fruits and herbs. A basic solar dehydrator can attain temperatures of 140 to 160 degrees on sunny days, adequate to efficiently dry produce without cooking it. Dried apples, peaches, tomatoes, and herbs diminish to roughly 1/16 their initial weight and volume while retaining most nutrients and remaining viable for up to 2 years. Winter squash demands minimal processing for extended storage. Varieties such as Hubbard and Butternut, properly cured in the sun for 10 to 14 days post-harvest, acquire hardened rinds that effectively seal in nutrition. Stored within straw-lined crates in a cool environment, these vegetables stay viable for 4 to 6 months without necessitating additional preservation measures. Seed saving establishes a link between present abundance and future harvests. Meticulously chosen seeds from the highest performing plants guarantee ongoing adaptation to local growing conditions. Consider the remarkable mathematics. A single tomato can harbor 150+ seeds, each potentially yielding a plant producing 20+ fruits the subsequent year. Thousands of tomatoes could result from a single fruit if all seeds successfully germinate. Community canning days transform potentially monotonous labor into social gatherings. Multiple families convene with produce prepared for processing, establishing an efficient assembly line encompassing washing, cutting, cooking, and canning. The gist suggests that canning days preserve interpersonal connections as effectively as they preserve vegetables. Cold smoking prolongs meat preservation beyond salting alone. By subjecting salt-cured meats to cool smoke below 85 degrees for prolonged durations, supplementary flavor compounds permeate the meat while further suppressing bacterial proliferation. A correctly smoked ham or bacon can endure for over a year without refrigeration, furnishing protein long after fresh meat would have deteriorated. Collectively, these preservation techniques forge a continuous food supply throughout all seasons, converting the feast or famine cycle of harvest periods into year-round food security featuring flavors and nutrition that modern food systems seldom emulate. The wisdom inherent in Amish farming is not concealed within clandestine techniques, but rather resides in enduring principles, respecting the soil, maximizing spatial utility, collaborating with nature, and eliminating waste. Their methods, refined across generations, serve as a reminder that abundant food production does not necessitate vast tracts of land or contemporary technology, merely careful observation and diligent stewardship.